Powered by Riverside FM.
Running again, crushing my brain with the candlelight. Losing my breath, losing myself, dreams are out of sight. Stop struggling against my demons. Stop taking life as fiction. Let it burn, burn, burn. Burn the pain, burn the lies,
All right, welcome back to a very exciting episode of the podcast. Today we have a very, very special guest. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Nightshade, and I'm a professional wrestler out of Oklahoma.
How are you today?
I am doing really well. I had shows Friday and Saturday, but today's my off day, so I've done nothing but lay on the couch all day.
So can you tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got into wrestling?
I was not a wrestling fan growing up. My stepdad watched it some in the house, so I kind of knew who, like, the main people are, like The Rock, John Cena, people like that. But I was never really into wrestling until me and my husband got together and COVID happened, so we couldn't go anywhere or do anything. So we started watching wrestling together, and he's like a lifelong fan. And I said, you know, I could do that very confidently. And I found a local training center here in Oklahoma and started training. I was definitely humbled very quickly on how hard it actually is. But here we are about a year later, and things have been going really well.
Very cool. So can you tell me what went into creating the character that you have?
Yeah, so kind of goes along with that same story. My husband bought a mask. I have it here. Just to add to our wrestling figures collection, because we collect basically anything you can think of, any kind of action figure you can think of. And he wanted a mask, just for himself, kind of as a joke, and then to, display in the living room with our other figures. And I had been training for about 6 to 8 months, and had been, reffing, but, feeling really unsure of when to get into wrestling. And then I had changed wrestling schools, and my trainer was like, all right, it's time to choose a date. Choose a date you're gonna debut. So we chose a date about a month out from then, which would have been February of this year. And I didn't have a character or anything, so I was like, hey babe, I'm just gonna wear your mask. How do you feel about that? Is that okay? And he's like, yeah, that's fine. So then I made some gear the night before the show so I could wear it, and it got over. And I've gotten much nicer gear since then, since it's not just made the night before, but the character just kind of developed from me stealing a mask from my living room.
That's very cool, though, and it's really cool to see that, not just anybody can become a wrestler, but if you have the passion to do it and you put in the work, it can be done.
It's definitely all about the work you're willing to put in and setting expectations for yourself, whether it's financial expectations of how much money you're willing to invest in yourself to push yourself further, or acknowledging your limitations. Oop. Hold on, I think I timed out. Something just happened.
Oh, I can still see you.
Okay, awesome. I'm using my husband's computer setup, so I didn't know he has a screensaver or something. I don't know. Sorry. Anyways, it's all about drive and pushing yourself forward and pushing the people around you forward. It's really a group effort, even though you're an independent contractor.
So what did you think when you started training? What was taking your first bump or running the ropes like?
I was so bruised. I didn't realize how fragile I was until I took my first bump and started running the ropes, and had just like black bruises all across my shoulders and back. Hit my head a couple of times. But every time I did it, I was so excited to try again and like keep trying. The trainer that night, my very first night of training, kept pushing me to like try new things. And he made me walk the top rope all the way around the ring on my first night. And then he had me sit down in the center of the ring and have everyone there put a chokehold on me. And I assume that frightened a lot of people off. I was excited and just being like, all right, like, I'm tough enough to handle this. Like, let's go.
So as far as some of the moves that you do, would you consider yourself like a brawler or like a high flyer, or?
I'm definitely more of a high flyer than a brawler. Whenever I wrestle certain people, I'll definitely be more of a base or like a powerhouse, but that's very rare. For the most part, I do a lot of high flying stuff or a lot of like lucha type stuff to kind of go along with my character. And then I do a lot of like fun gimmicky things to get my character over, like a back scratch is a big one because I got to use my cat claws.
That's very cool. So during the development of your moves, did you take any inspiration from anybody, past or present?
Yeah, for sure. Whenever I was developing my moveset, I definitely watched a lot of luchadors. My favorites being Penta and Rey Fenix, who are with AEW. Some of my other moves I got from AJ Lee, because she's extremely talented. And then I also learned a lot from Athena, or Ember Moon.
Very cool. Very cool. So what promotions have you worked with? And do you have any favorite promotions that you've worked with, or any that you haven't that you'd like to?
My favorite promotions I've worked for, is definitely, I wouldn't say like favorite per se, like ones I work regularly that I really enjoy would be UWO and Core Professional Wrestling out of Oklahoma. XWE out of Kansas is great. I have also had the opportunity to work for Mission Pro Wrestling, which is an all-female company ran by Thunder Rosa, which was a good time. Sorry, I forgot the second half of your question.
That's okay. Do you have any promotions that you haven't worked for that you'd like to?
Obviously, like, I'm an indie wrestler, so everyone wants to be signed and work for WWE or AEW or even Impact or Ring of Honor. I definitely want the opportunity at some point to work in other countries. I think that would be really great. In a couple of weeks, I will be working for a promotion in Indiana for the first time. And then later this year, I'll be in Tennessee for the first time. And Arkansas as well. So,
very cool.
Expanding out of my little safe haven that I've built.
That's very cool. Yeah, and you know, I've just curious because I've talked to a lot of indie wrestlers. What do you think the state of wrestling is right now with, you know, you have the emergence of AEW a few years ago, and then it seems like the indie scene has kind of exploded. It's a lot more popular than it was years and years ago.
I truly believe that the territories are coming back. Like, I feel that AEW kind of pushed the indie style of wrestling onto a main screen, especially during COVID times when gimmicky or like just like silly type matches was the only thing you could do because you don't really have an audience. So you couldn't necessarily tell like these big dramatic stories with no one there. So I think that that really pushed more indie type wrestling fans to like give it a chance and to see what their promotions in their home state has to offer. And I've seen crowds of over 300 to 400 people show up to an indie show. And that hasn't always been the case, especially like maybe 5-10 years ago, like things were starting to dwindle down.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more. I think that what AEW's done as far as highlighting wrestlers that the mainstream audience may not know is great, because they're trying to elevate. I think they're trying to elevate everyone, to the point where, if their company keeps growing like it is, they're going to need talent, and that's where they're going to get it from.
Yeah. They also are very good about putting a lot of indie wrestlers on Dark, which it's not necessarily on TV, but also wrestlers who have less than a year in are getting to be in the ring in front of thousands of people and gaining experience and learning. I've had a lot of friends work for AEW and do Dark, and it was, from what I've been told by them, it was a really great experience and has led to more bookings on Dark and allowed them to grow, and will hopefully be on Dynamite soon.
Yeah, and even though, Dark's not on TV per se, you can always catch them on YouTube too.
Yeah.
So I know that they're trying to expand to the point where, you're right, territories seem like they're coming back, and that's always ultimately very healthy, I think, when it comes down to wrestling in general, especially for people like you on the indies that are able to make a good living doing it.
Yeah, for sure. Also, AEW allows their workers to go work indie promotions whenever they want, which lets casual wrestling fans see the person on TV and be like, oh, like they're coming to my hometown, so like I like this person, I'm gonna come check out this indie promotion for the first time. So it kind of
and you're right. By doing that, not only does it help whatever promotion that particular wrestler is working for, but it also will bring some more eyes on AEW and the kind of things that they're doing too.
I totally agree.
So as far as, going overseas, if you have the opportunity, would it be like New Japan or?
I definitely would want to work in Japan, along with Australia and England. Would all be really fun places to work. I have a friend who's worked in England before and said it was really great.
Very, very cool. Yeah, and it seems like not in order to become a superstar, so to speak, but in order to broaden your talent, going to these different areas, it seems like it's the best option to further your knowledge, so to speak, in different styles.
I totally agree. Going, especially places that aren't just your home territory, you get to learn a new style or a new way of teaching, a new way of learning, and then you get to bring that knowledge back to the people you normally train with, and you get to pass that knowledge on and bring other people up and help them improve as well.
Definitely. And I think that just myself personally, watching some of the people that have been overseas, whether it be Australia, England, or Japan, I think that their character is more broad in the things that they can do and the showmanship that goes into it. Because I know just watching the audiences, like in Japan, react differently than they do here, depending on what you're doing.
Yeah, Japan has a totally different style of wrestling and a different type of fan base. If you watch any of their matches online or anything like that, like the audience aren't going to be like at AEW or WWE where they're like loud and screaming the entire time. Like they're only really reacting like when something big happens.
Exactly. And I think that not being in the wrestling world per se, but I think that would be kind of like an eye opener, so to speak, because you're used to one thing and then you're experiencing something different.
I think it'd be nerve-wracking. It's definitely going to be, if I ever get the opportunity, going to be a whole learning experience of, oh, it's okay they didn't do what I expected because, like, this is how they always react, so you have to adjust yourself to them.
Exactly. So I'm always curious also, as far as wrestlers past or present, do you have any that you'd like to meet or wrestle in or if you could?
So my fun answer and silly answer would be I want the opportunity to do an intergender match with Orange Cassidy. Just because I think that would be a lot of fun.
Okay.
It would be very hard to keep a straight face, but it would be very fun.
He's definitely an interesting character, and I like the character that he portrays on TV because it's so different than anything you see on national TV.
The same thing with Danhausen. I think it would be fun to wrestle him because he's extremely talented in the ring, obviously when he's not injured, but just I enjoy the storytelling aspect of wrestling way more than I enjoyed the actual moves. So I would only really be interested in very silly characters to go along with my silly character.
That's very cool. Yeah, and they're very good. And Danhausen has just recently become more mainstream, and he's a very interesting character for sure.
So his whole thing is he puts like curses on people, and my characters, I'm literally a black cat. So it's unlucky if you meet me as well.
So I am curious, and I ask everyone this also, if you had to pick 4 wrestlers to be on Mount Rushmore, past or present, no matter whether it be movesets or just overall, who would they be?
Ooh, that's a really good question. Let me think. Alright, I'm going to start with Kenny Omega, Okada, William Regal, and who's the 4th one? Let's put Stone Cold as the 4th one. Just because
there you go, all very good choices.
Out of range.
All very good choices. So I do have one more question for you. As far as the promos and things like that you guys do, what kind of stuff goes into that type of training to be able to be good on the stick and be captivating at the same time while, being that character?
I've definitely been to different seminars and different training classes where you've done stuff specifically about speaking. The main part has always been to not bury your opponent. So you never want to go super personal or criticize them. It's not something that's about the person and not the character. But it's also about just knowing yourself and knowing your character and who it is. Whenever I was working on my character, trying to figure out if I was going to be a face or a heel, I initially had came out very heelish and very mean, but I'm really not. I'm a very kind person, so I couldn't keep that up. And so when I was doing promos, it didn't come through. So I had to reevaluate who I am and who my character is, because the best character work is just you turned up to 11 or 12. So for me, it was just figuring out who I am with the mask on and without, and making my promos and character work fall within that. And I did it in the dorkiest way possible, which was I printed out a D&D character sheet and I filled it out to help map it out of who my character is.
How easy is it to cut a promo on somebody?
If it's someone you work with all the time, it's super easy because you know how they are in front of crowds. It's a little bit more difficult if you're doing a promo for someone you've never met before, but the company you're working for wants to get a promo before the show, obviously. So it's a bit tougher, but it all really just depends on how comfortable you are with the other person.
Okay. And in regards to being a heel or a babyface, do you find it easier to be a babyface or a heel? And would you rate your character either a heel or a babyface, or kind of in between?
I think it's much harder to be a heel. My character is definitely a babyface because every child in the audience either has or knows a person with a cat or a dog named Luna. So when they see me, they immediately correlate those two things, and it's very hard to get them to boo me. So for me, it's very much easy to get them behind you to root for that underdog, versus a heel has to do so much more work to make the crowd hate them. That's why heels are generally way more experienced, because they're good at it. And that's what led them to being a heel.
So I know you mentioned you have some stuff coming up. Do you have anything that you want to try to promote? That way people can come check you out?
Yeah, definitely. Let me pull up my calendar real quick. So this coming Friday, September 2nd, I will be with UWO in Oklahoma City. We are doing a cage night, so we'll have multiple matches in cages. The following Saturday, I will be again with UWO on the 10th, and we're doing 2 free wrestling shows along with a carnival that the wrestlers will be putting on. The following Saturday, which will be the 17th, I will be in Indiana doing a lucha show. And then the following Saturday after that, I will be back in Salina, Kansas with XWE.
Very, very cool. Well, I appreciate you taking time out to chat with me. I know I found you on Instagram. Where else can our viewers find you?
You can find me on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. If you go to my Instagram, I'll have a link tree up soon where you can find it all a lot easier.
Very cool. On your YouTube, where can they find you so I can tag you in this video as well?
You can actually tag me under Robin the Rep.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And I'll definitely post all your links below in the description. That way people can find you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. This is a
You're
really
very
great
welcome.
time.
It was definitely a lot of fun, and I hope one day we can do it again.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
You're welcome. I hope you have a great rest of the day, and good luck on your upcoming matches.